Let's talk perms. Big perms. Bouncy perms. Spiral curl, big and bouncy perms. Early 1980s heat, moisture, chemical solution, head tipped back, salon chair, Coke spoon up the nose, ceramic rods inserted, poof, like magic. The perm. Not just women wore perms in the early 1980s, not just Cher, Whitney, or Barbara. Men had perms as well. George Harrison had a perm. Dustin Hoffman had a perm. Even Al Pacino had a perm in the early 1980s. Not just women, not just men, not just celebrities, but every man wore perms as well. Your own neighbors had a perm in the early 1980s. As a matter of fact, my own father had a perm in the early 1980s. Let me show you this picture surreptitiously taken from a photo album when I was visiting him recently. There he is. Profile picture. Chanel, never a ton of hair to work with, somehow had a gorgeous curly perm in the early 1980s with that mustache. Get out, Chanel. You are sexy. Stand next to Rosa Parks. God bless your soul, Mom. I miss you every day. Mom was always a bit of a yo-yo dieter. This is a svelte Rosie in the picture. But let's get back to that perm. Man, oh man, oh man. Very fashionable, Stan. Who else had perms? Perms were all the rage in baseball in the 1980s. Here we go. 1980. Bernie Carbo featured on a recent episode, best friend of Bill Lee. 1980 tops for those of you listening to this broadcast. Bernie Carbo back for a second stint with the St. Louis Cardinals. Will you look at that perm on Carbo? Later, like I said, became a hairdresser. One more ball player perm to show with you. 1983 Fleer. Gotta be the patron saint of baseball player perms. The 1984 All-Star Game MVP, the kid, Gary Carter, really hung with the perm for a long time. Look at his early cards. I love that 76 tops with the bat extended. Hair is straight. By the 1980s, Carter's rocking a perm. In fact, he carries that perm, I think, all the way through the 86 World Series team. Mookie Chilson, if you're out there, leave a message, leave a comment. Did Carter wear a perm 86 World Series? I am pretty sure he did. You know who else had a perm? You know who else was intimately connected to the 1984 All-Star Game? Not just Gary Carter, but this guy. Let me bring him up for you. Earl Weaver. We're coming back from a commercial break, heading to the bottom of the sixth. Al and Earl in the booth. Al asking Earl questions about making substitutions and do you play to win or do you try to get everybody in the game? We'll get to that debate in just a moment. But look at that perm on Earl Weaver. Earl, what are you thinking, man? What producer got into your head and let you believe that that would be a good idea? You are Earl Weaver. You're hat turned around, kicking dirt on the umpire. You are a tough guy manager, and you're rocking a perm. Oh, man, I love you anyway, Earl Weaver. We'll come back to you in a later episode, do a dive into your greatness. But for now, I just wanted to raise up your perm, keeping it light this episode. Welcome to the Rated Rabbi Sports Card Podcast, where sports cards and pop culture meet the 1984 All-Star Game. I am your host, Rabbi David Spinrad. This is episode 65. Put me in, coach. Put me, you know you're singing it with me. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today. Sing with me. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today. Come on. John Fogerty, center field, 1985. Is it the greatest baseball song ever recorded? If you can think of a better one, leave a comment. I certainly cannot. John Fogerty, center field, still to this day gets heavy play at the ballpark. Rounding third, headed for home. It's a brown-eyed, handsome man. Who is that brown-eyed, handsome man? Well, it's none other than Jackie Robinson. You could look it up. Fogerty, absolutely, he's talking about Jackie with that lyric. So many great lyrics. Let me throw a few at you. You're going to know all of them. Just play along with me. What else? Spend some time in the Mudville 9 watching it from the bench. That's, of course, Casey at the bat. He follows that up with a piece of a Casey lyric a little bit later. 1888, San Francisco Examiner. Casey at the bat, an anonymous poem written later, actually has a great life as a vaudeville bit. What else from center field? Say It Ain't So. Say It Ain't So. Yeah, you know what that is. That's actually the Maybe It Happened, Maybe It's Myth. Joe Jackson, 1919 Black Sox scandal coming out of the courthouse, coming down the steps. Young baseball fan looks up at his idol and says, say it ain't so, Joe. One more for you. It's a gone and you can tell that one goodbye. What is that? Little deeper cut. Maybe it doesn't get you if you're not a Bay Area fan. Tell It Goodbye was Lon Simmons' home run call. Lon Simmons, longtime Giants broadcaster, partnered with Russ Hodges early in his career, was actually in the booth for the last game at Candlestick Park, September 1999. I was there. Amazing. And in fact, that whole last season, the motto was Tell It Goodbye. Lon Simmons, longtime Giants broadcaster, had a great stretch with the Oakland A's in the middle. Also did the Niners for a real long time. I'm going to show you a kind of a cool PC item. 1957 49ers team set. That's a young Lon Simmons on the right side looking down. He's in the middle right there is Frankie Alberts, who is a Niners quarterback, really known as a great runner. Frankie Alberts, I believe, is in the 52 Bowman Large set. Yes, he is. I have it. And then next to Frankie Albert on the other side, way from Lon Simmons, that is Bob Fouts. So what you say, that's Bob Fouts, is actually Dan Fouts' father. Bob Fouts, longtime 49ers broadcaster, father of Hall of Fame quarterback Dan Fouts. Oh, I have moments where I go, you sound a little bit too much like Cliff Clavin, Davey boy. So be it. All right. Center Field is the very best baseball song of all time. What is the absolute worst baseball song of all time? I'll give you a minute. I'm going Glory Days. Bruce Springsteen. Great song. Great song. Great song. It's off Born in the USA. Nostalgia. Great like bar band song. The problem? What makes it the very worst baseball song? It's a great song. It's like the video directed by John Sayles, who did 8 Men Out. What else can I tell you? The end of the video, right? Nettles Got Me. Bottom of the ninth. I love all of that. But what makes it a horrible baseball song? I had a friend who was a big baseball player back in high school. He could throw that speedball by you, make you look like a fool, boy. A speedball? I have been a baseball fan my entire life. Never have I ever heard anything called a speedball. Is it a fastball? If it's a fastball that this guy could throw, how would he make you look like a fool? Everyone knew, you knew Gooden, right? Bring the heat. That's not what's going to make you look like a fool. What made you look like a fool actually was Gooden's curveball, right? Make you look like a fool. You're sitting dead red fastball. It's not going to make you look like a fool. Guy breaks off a curve or a slider that just drops off the table. Okay. Speedball. Man. Bruce. Great song. Worst baseball song of all time. You can hate on me. There's room in the comments. I love Springsteen, but he could throw that speedball by you. Come on, man. Everybody knows that a speedball is a deadly mix of cocaine and heroin. Speedball, responsible for the deaths of John Belushi, Chris Farley, River Phoenix. Speedball took the life of the great Philip Seymour Hoffman. Speedball killed 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glover, 1996 MVP, San Diego Padre, Houston Astro, Ken Caminiti. Speedball, man. Somehow the 80s are just a lot of drug references in this show. I try to keep it family friendly, but come on, man. Come on, Bruce. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. 1984 All-Star Game. 60 players were All-Stars that year. Well, 61 if you want to count Trammell. Trammell pulled out. Alfredo Griffin took his place. 60 men on the active rosters. 30 in the NL. 30 in the AL. Of that 60, 21 of them were playing in their very first All-Star game. Orioles pitcher Mike Boddicker, Giants catcher Bob Brenly, A's closer Bill Cottle, Mariners first baseman Alvin Davis, Giants outfielder Chili Davis, Cubs catcher Jody Davis. A lot of Davises that year. White Sox pitcher Richard Dotson, Minnesota Twins catcher Dave Engel, pitcher from the New York Mets Dwight Gooden, shortstop Toronto Blue Jays Alfredo Griffin, Padre outfielder Tony Gwynn, Phillies closer Al Holland, the NL starter Montreal Expo pitcher Charlie Lee, first baseman LA Dodgers Mike Marshall, Mattingly from the New York Yankees, Donnie Ballgame's first All-Star game, Jerry Mumphrey from Houston playing in his first All-Star game, Rafael, no, not his first. Yes, his first. He played one next year. These are all firsts. Rafael Ramirez, shortstop from the Atlanta Braves. Juan Samuel, Phillies shortstop. Rhino in his first All-Star game. Cubs second baseman Ryan Sandberg. Mets outfielder Darryl Strawberry, and future five-timer in his first All-Star game, Montreal third baseman Tim Wallach. 21 All-Stars out of 60 playing in their first. Of that 21, 12, this would be their one and only All-Star appearance. They are Boddicker, Brenly Cottle, Alvin Davis, Richard Dotson, Dave Engel, Alfredo Griffin, Al Holland, Charlie Lee, Mike Marshall, Jerry Mumphrey, and Rafael Ramirez. 21 in their first. Of that 21, 12 of them would be playing in their very only. Of that 12, 5 did not play. 5 did not play in their one and only All-Star game appearance. And they are Mike Boddicker from the Baltimore Orioles, Dave Engel, catcher from the Twins, Al Holland, closer from Philly, Mike Marshall, first baseman from the Dodgers, and Atlanta Braves shortstop Rafael Ramirez. Mike Boddicker, man, probably the best of the bunch. Plays 14 years in the big leagues, originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Was a stud at the University of Iowa. 8 times in his career, makes 30 or more starts. Career 31.3 WAR, 134 wins, 3.80 ERA. Has a darn good career. Like I said, 14 seasons, mostly with Baltimore and Boston, a little bit of Milwaukee, and a little tiny bit of KC. Both of those at the end. Boddicker wins the LCS MVP in 1983, also a World Series champion. Wins the Sporting News Rookie of the Year in 83, of course. Wins a Gold Glove later on with Boston 1990. It's a pretty good career. Let's take a look. 84 tops. What I love about this 84 tops, I got this on eBay. I don't think I paid, I don't know, $5 or $10 for it when I was putting together the set, is someone submitted it and it came back a 5. Like, come on, man. Why would you do that? Why would you submit a card that okay, I thought I was going to get a 7. Why would you bother submitting this? I love this one. I was putting together the set. Mike Boddicker, PSA 5, 1984 tops. Moving on, Dave Engel, like mostly a catcher, but also played outfield and corner, infield, first and third. Minnesota is where he came up. Later played for Detroit, Montreal, and a little tiny bit with Milwaukee. Engel, a major leaguer, 1981 to 1989. Much less of a player than Boddicker, 3.8 WAR, but could hit a little. San Diego native, born and raised in that beautiful city. Career average of 262. Played it actually at USC, baseball under Rod Dito, and played football at USC, where he won a national championship. Teammate of Ricky Bell, featured on an early episode of the podcast. What can I tell you? Engel originally was drafted by the California Angels. Super cool. He was actually acquired in the trade that brought Rod Carew from the Twins to the Angels. Kind of a claim to fame. He was traded for Carew. Much cooler than that, though, is Dave Engel's father was like best friends growing up with Ted Williams. Like such good friends that his father used to run Williams's hitting camp in the summertime. He ran him a summer camp. And every summer they would drive from San Diego to Massachusetts. The dad would run the camp. And he literally grew up with Ted Williams. Family friends. Dad was a really good buddy. He used to go fishing with Ted Williams all the time. Like that's normal. Just hanging out with Ted Williams. Let me show you a card. Ted Williams. He's not. But he's the best Dave Engel he could possibly be. Here he is, one-time All-Star, 1984. Did not play. Actually, one of the cooler cards in the set. Coming up out of the crouch, hat turned around backwards, mask off, pulling the glove out. Looked like he's going to make a throw down, try to get a runner, trying to steal. Very cool card, 84 tops, Dave Engel. One more fun fact about Dave Engel, the one-time All-Star who did not play. He is brother-in-laws to this guy, Tom Brunansky. Brunansky had a much better career than his brother-in-law. They both married the same sisters, right? So that must be kind of fun. Hang out, watch sports, do Thanksgiving. The sisters are sisters. You're married to them. Dave Engel, Tom Brunansky. Next one, Al Holland, covered him recently. We did a deep dive into Al Holland in episode 53, Parental Discretion is Advised. Not going to spend much more time on Al, only to mention he came up with Pittsburgh, was a Giant, didn't know how to use him, gets traded away. 83 has a real good year. He is their closer as they go to the World Series. And there he is on his 84 tops, the year he would play in his one and only All-Star game. Next is Mike Marshall. Mike Marshall had a pretty good career, 81 to 91, 9 of those years with the Dodgers, a little bit with the Mets, and a little bit, I think, with the Red Sox as well. 270 career average, had the misfortune of trying to follow Steve Garvey in LA, so that'd be hard to begin with. He was also like a kind of a big goon. He could hit, decent, 148 career home runs, was on that 88 World Series team when they beat the Dodgers. I remember in 1987, Mike Marshall, the Giants were playing the Dodgers. It was like April, and it was 8-8. Just had been like blood going on, like the team's just bad. The fans into it at the stick. It's 8-8, and Marshall hits a 2-run bomb and rise rounding the bases. He points at Roger Craig in the dugout, and people go nuts. Bench is clear. Finally, they break it up. Comes back after that, after they slow it down, and Scotty Gureltz knocks down the Dodger catcher who is hitting. Alex Trevino, benches clear again. They come back this time like fans are getting into it. Love those Giants fans getting into it with the Dodgers. Some fans like are dumping big beers. Oh, that was actually the last game they ever sold big beer at the Stick. And not that much longer after that. They stopped selling it after the 7th inning stretch. You could look all this up. Mike Marshall, kind of a big goon. What else can I tell you about Mike Marshall? 1984, Mike Marshall in his one and only All-Star game is kind of sitting on top of the world. He's dating Belinda Carlisle from the Go-Gos. God, I go deep for you, friends. You listen to this, you learn about star-crossed romances. They didn't have a great relationship. Mike Marshall was pretty engrossed in his baseball career, and Belinda Carlisle was dealing with a major coke habit. I told you, man, 1980s, a lot of coca going on. Carlisle is full on coked out. If you remember that video, the Rockers Against Drugs, Rad, where she's rolling around on the beach, she admits, and she was high. Interesting, when she moved from Hollywood to Marina Del Rey, where she lived with Mike Marshall, she knew nobody and actually had to go and talk to her agent. Well, not her agent, but someone who worked in the agent's office to get a coke connection out near the beach. It turns out her coke dealer lived in the floor below her in their building. Not good for the problem. Belinda Carlisle, I'm going to show you a little Go-Go's picture here. There she is singing on stage, and what's she wearing? A Dodgers jersey. You think I make this stuff up? I'm only bringing you the facts. Let's get her off the screen. And let me show you Mike Marshall's 1984 tops. Oh, God, I'm an idiot. Were you more Bangles or were you more Go-Gos? Oh, did I say Bangles before? No. Belinda Carlisle was the Go-Gos, right? She was the Go-Gos. I'm sorry. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to pass judgment on this fool. Belinda Carlisle was the Go-Gos. I know she was the Go-Gos, but I have to tell you right now, and I don't care who knows about it, I did then, and I still do now, have such a crush on Susanna Hoffs. If you're listening to the podcast, I've got that Walk Like Egyptian video where she's kind of doing that side eye with her big old teased hair. Look, she's so pretty. I love Susanna Hoffs. So forgive me for mixing up the Bangles and the Go-Gos. I'm so more of a Bangles fan, and mostly because I have a crush on the Hoffs. I don't know what else to tell you. Walk like an Egyptian. All right, final of the 5 who only played in one All-Star game and did not play as Rafael Ramirez, a native of San Pedro de Macorís, Dominican Republic. Lots of ball players, including Pedro Guerrero, come from San Pedro de Macorís. Ramirez placed 13 years in the show, all with Atlanta and Houston. He was a hitter. He was a hitter back when shortstops, they didn't hit, right? They're more in the Mark Belanger mode. Now we take it for granted that shortstops are offensive threats, but back then, not so much. Ramirez, 261 career average, which, believe it or not, for a shortstop was pretty darn good. The problem with Rafael Ramirez was he had monostepiedad. He had stone hands. He was a horrible fielding shortstop. Granted, the old Fulton County Stadium infield wasn't anything gorgeous. Then he went to Houston with that turf and the seams. Couldn't have been easy, but oh my God. Rafael Ramirez, let me run some numbers down here for you. He led the National League in errors in 1981 with 30. He led the National League in errors in 1982 with 38. He led the National League in errors in 1983 with 39. Joe Youngblood just beat him out in 1984. 1985, Ramirez, not to be daunted, came back and led the league in errors again with 32. Remember Joe Youngblood? There's an 83 Fleer card that I really want to get. I thought I had it, couldn't find it. I guess I remember it. I don't know what happened to it. It shows, it's one of those little highlight superstar specials. No, it's probably just a highlight. And it shows, it remembers the day where Joe Youngblood played for 2 teams in the same day. I think it was the Expos and the Giants. 1982 is a 1983 Fleer highlight celebrating that he played for 2 teams in the same day. Whew. All right. Let me show you a couple of cards I did not buy this week. I am trying to practice sports card collecting discipline. Probably the best thing I could do is not to look at cards at all, but oh man, it's so fun. First card I'm going to add to the stage is not Susanna Hoffs. It's this one. 1996 Finest Gold Refractor Barry Bonds. one that says Sterling on it, in a BGS 9.5. That's when the subgrades are on the back side. So it's an old label. Has 1.9 and 3.95s, gem mint. Beautiful card, but close but no cigar. This is a cool cardone. This is the first year of Gold Refractors, 1996 finest. So it has some kind of, has some status, has significance. The first year of Gold Refractors. It's a Bonds who I want to get a Bonds, but it's not the card. It's close. What I want is that 93 finest refractor of Bonds, the first refractor ever produced. So I watched it. I even went as far to go on Gixxon and put a snipe bid down in advance. And then last night before the auction ended, I took it down. Car went for a lot less than I was anticipating. Car went for about 60% of what I was prepared to pay. So I could have got some kind of deal, but it was off target. It wouldn't have created the collection I wanted. It wasn't the card I've been watching. It's a cool card, but I got to keep that focus. Got to be willing to say no to the good to have the great. You got to pass on the great to have the transcendent. One more card to show you, kind of fits the same bill. I love this card. I love this card so much. It's a 1975 Topps Joe Morgan, big red machine. Morgan would go on to win the MVP in 75 and 76. I love so many things about this card. First of all, 1975 Topps design, super fun. All right, the big bright colors, the blocky font with the shadow caps. Oh, it's so good. It's a centered copy. I love the photographer who'd made the choice to go at Dutch angles with a lot of the cards this year for the Reds. Whoever that photographer was. If you look at Pete Rose, it's even more of a severe Dutch angle. Johnny Bench, but I love this card. The red of Joe Morgan and the red of the border. It's such a beautiful card. PSA 9 ended last night on the Robert Edwards auction, and I passed. Wasn't that expensive? Significantly less than the buy it nows on eBay, but again, I had to let the good go because I want to get that Babe Ruth card. I got a short list of transcendent cards I want. So it hurt to let this one go by. It hurt to let the Bonds one go by, but you got to make hard choices sometimes. All right, what do we do tonight? We talked about perm. Let's talk about the best baseball song of all time, Center Field by John Fogerty. Talked about the worst baseball song of all time, Glory Days. Talked about that deadly concoction of cocaine and heroin, also known as the speedball. Ran down the 21 players playing in their first, their 12 playing in their only. Did a dive into the 5 who only played in one All-Star game and never got to enter the game. Sorry about that, Mike Boddicker, Dave Engel, Al Holland, Mike Marshall, or Rafael Ramirez. I'm sure you still got some good swag. What else? Spent a little time on Belinda Carlisle, mixed up the Go-Gos and the Bangles. You knew who I was talking about. You knew because you also had a little crush on Susanna Hoffs. She's just so cute the way she does that little side-eye thing with her eyes. Man, oh man, oh man, oh. All right. I'm supposed to be on Sports Card Live this Saturday night with Jeremy Lee. I haven't heard from him. I have the 30th on my calendar. We'll see about that. If I'm on Sports Cards Live, I would love for you to join us. I'm kind of stoked about it, kind of excited, a little nervous. I'll just be myself. He seems like a nice enough fella. And then next episode's going to be outrageous. Our third installation of Season Team Boom Box and Scream. We're going to take a dive into the 1986 New York Football Giants with the great Rabbi Seth Limmer. It is going to be a good time. Until we see each other again, thanks so much for joining me. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. My daughter advised me that would be a good idea to say those things at the end. Until we meet again, may you be blessed and may you enjoy health and long life. So long for now.